The league is aging. The door is open. Can Lauri Markkanen be a top 15 player in the NBA? It's next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps as well as on YouTube. And thank you for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network. All right, we've got a bunch of stuff for you today. I did get word that the Will Hardy audio didn't play yesterday. I have one thought on why that is. Was kind of perplexed and played around with it last night. It's hard for me to actually tell in this system that we use. I'm going to play it again at the end of the show because I thought it was so good about Keyonte. And so I'm going to flip that. We'll try it again. And if it works, then I actually have figured out what's wrong. So that's part two. It has to do with, honestly, if you don't really care, but I'll tell you, I use one entire Google Chrome for Locked On stuff and one entire Google Chrome for Utah Jazz stuff, and they're totally different. And I used the one that I use for Utah Jazz, seemingly making sense, not the one I use for Locked On. And I think that maybe if I'm in one Chrome where I do a show, it doesn't read the other Chrome. It's my only thought, but I don't know. These moments are happening where I get old and feel like I don't know what's taking place. All right, here's the show. Really, really fascinating matchup against Portland tonight. We'll dig into that, give you some great things to watch and listen for tonight. I'll dig in a little bit of small sample size theater and what's real on what I can feel, the vibe. I told you in my predictions that we would start wanting to play in and things like that. We're 2-1 and we're all in. I'll give you some reasons why it might be a little early for that. Let's start with Lauri. Let's start actually with the Locked On top 200 player list and figure out where Lauri can go. Like, if that's the first place we want to start for the day, let's start there. So there's something interesting going on here in the league. And that is that we've had the transition, right? We're out of the LeBron, Steph Curry, dominant player era into the Shea, Gilgeous-Alexander, Anthony Edwards, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic. We're really into the European age of the NBA. And now Victor. After the top 7 players in the NBA, if you count Steph still in that, which you probably should, there's a really significant drop. You drop from the guys who could carry their team to a championship into Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell. I don't have Jason Tatum right now just because of the injury. Kevin Durant, aging stars like Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Tyrese Halliburton, and that group. There's a group of players in here, if you look at the Locked On top 100 players in the NBA, which is Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Kawhi Leonard, aging, Devin Booker, Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Williams, Jaylen Brown, Pascal Siakam, Paulo Banchero, James Harden, aging, Jaren Jackson Jr., Trae Young, Darius Garland, John Morant, Chet Holmgren. Lauri can go all the way to the top of that group. Lauri, coming off of last year of just too many losses, got completely forgotten in the Locked On top 100 to 55 on the list. We start moving up here just in rankings of players in the league. Halliburton, what he did last year, we can't dismiss. Anthony Edwards, two-sided game, two-way game if he actually plays, we can't dismiss. Cade Cunningham feels like he's on the edge. Okay, that's 15. And Evan Mobley is great defensively, but he'll never be the offensive player. Never be the offensive player that Lauri Markkanen is. We start to get into a group here where I think you can start talking about Lauri Markkanen, if he can do this for an entire season and build off the foundation we talked about yesterday, can be in this group. Lauri Markkanen can be as good as Evan Mobley. He can be as good as Devin Booker. he can be as good as Karl-Anthony Towns. And really, with Devin Booker and Karl-Anthony Towns, you're talking about an elite offensive player. Okay. So when Lauri was just, and if he is just, a 7-foot-tall Klay Thompson, then he's not there. Because you can give Book the ball. He's not very good at the clutch, but you can give Book the ball. Cat might be overrated on this list. But if Lauri suddenly has a different aspect to his game, which is, first off, he and Will Hardy have created this single play that is, Devin Booker's an isolation player. Cat's a pick and pop player. Everyone's got to have their play. James Harden had his pick and roll, right? Everyone's got to have their play. Kawhi Leonard's got his mid right side ISO, and everything happens off that foundation. Well, Lauri's got the play. And it's a pin down out of the corner. He comes out of a double stagger, or he comes out of two. And I don't really know. You have to either top block him. Now he goes backdoor for a possible dunk. But I think you have to top block him. Or you have to switch it. You cannot trail Lauri on that pick anymore. Now, let's walk through that for a second. Once you're switching it, what they showed the other night was a little Keyonte George, Lauri Markkanen pick and roll. If you're switching everything, then Lauri's now rolling to the basket with a small on him. Now, it's a little complicated because Walker's in there clogging it, and so the other team's big is going to catch Lauri before he gets to the rim. And Lauri's going to have to make plays at 8-10 feet. If you're switching, well, the Jazz set the pick right, Lauri can pop out. The other thing is Lauri on the pin down. If you're switching from underneath, Lauri, your guy picks his own, Lauri pops out for a three. Lauri's taking 11 threes a game. That shooting window is never going away. And if you can really take 11 threes a game and have a physical game where you're going to the free throw line a few times and playing a few other things and running the floor, you start to get into this rarefied air. And we're in a league right now where this is the area of transition. The Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonards, who are kind of clinging. I don't know where Anthony Davis fits in this. James Harden's, Jimmy Butler's, who are lingering between 15 and 30 or 10 and 30 right now on the top 100 list. They're spots. And there is this elite group of Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama, probably Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell deserve to be in there. Donovan was sick the other night. Luka, Giannis, shit, right? You got it. This next tier is open for Lauri Markkanen to pop into, which gets interesting, which gives the Jazz not quite a foundational piece, but if over time, not tomorrow, Ace Bailey gets together and you get one of these kids in this draft coming up here, and now all of a sudden you have Lauri Markkanen, it starts to come together really interestingly. I don't think I'm crazy. First of all, Devin Booker's, I've never been a huge Devin Booker guy, and he was super unimpressive the other night. Lauri Markkanen and Devin Booker to me is a wash. Lauri Markkanen and Karl-Anthony Towns are super similar in that they're probably the two best shooting big men in the game. I'll just say it again. Imagine a 7-foot-tall Klay Thompson, because that's what Lauri is shooting, who then now starts to add some use of his physical strength. Now, okay, wear and tear, teams adjusting, it's got a long route to go. 3 games into the season against 3 not great opponents, one of which didn't play any defense at all. I think you have to, but it's there, right? Point one is it's there. The league is in a transition, and Lauri Markkanen being one of the top 15 players in the NBA is really possible. Can he be better than Jaylen Brown and Pascal Siakam? Pascal Siakam's pretty sick right now, by the way. Can he be better than Jaren Jackson Jr.? Maybe not because of the defense, but he can be better offensively. Where he and Chet Holmgren go, I don't know because of the defensive aspect. So I guess there's also a responsibility here, Lauri, to not be a turnstile defensively. And last year, he was one of the worst isolation defenders in the NBA. But that was last year. So I think it's really interesting. You have the foundational play that everything comes off of. And then you can start to build blocks off of that. And Lauri can get his 3 off at any time. If he continues to get 11 a game, that is leading the league leading the NBA in that is something else. And teams will adjust. He is the focus. They're going to force other guys to beat us here. I'm super interested to watch tonight. Does Tamari Kamara guard Keyonte George and blow up our whole offense at the top? Or does he go and try to guard Lauri Markkanen? The landscape is there. What an exciting year for Lauri Markkanen. What is real for the Utah Jazz? What is maybe not as real long-term? In a super small sample size theater, 4 reasons coming up of why I'd be a little nervous before I got too excited on the Utah Jazz. Next on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by Intercap Lending. That's our friend Steve Carter. Intercap's been with us for about 7 years now, maybe more. With COVID, you just add 2 years onto anything you think, and then it just kind of keeps going and going and going. Anyway, that's a side note. So Steve's great. I've never had anybody who's better in customer service, and it just is such an honor and privilege for me to be able to tell you about Steve and have him here for you as our own personal loan officer. Here's some of the great news going on. Rates have begun to slowly come down, so anyone sitting on the high 6s and 7 in mortgage, Steve can quickly see if a refinance makes sense for you, create a simple roadmap for making the timing ideal. Even if someone isn't ready to refinance today, having the plan in place means so there's no obligation. Just give Steve a call or email me at dlock09@gmail.com. Intercap offers a 2-time closing on construction loans, perfect for anyone building their dream home. If you already own the land can count as collateral toward the down payment. And there's even an option to defer interest payments during the build, a huge benefit for managing cash flow during construction. And Steve has all loan options for you. He's multiple states, so it's not just only Utah. So if you're moving or relocating, Steve can help out for you. The reviews continue to be incredible. Todd wrote, Steve was fantastic, worked many different options on my loan, stayed late multiple times to keep the loan moving along. I was able to close 2 weeks to the day after I got things in the process with him. That is what Steve Carter's all about. Email me at dlock09@gmail.com. Or if you want to call Steve directly, it's 385-800-8528. That's 385-800-8528. Or email me at dlock09@gmail.com to make sure that you get your VIP experience that you deserve with Steve Carter and Intercap Lending. One of the tools as a small business that makes a huge difference for owners is Q, formerly known as Open Phone. It's the same great business phone service you've heard me talk about before, just a new name, Q. Here's why it matters. Every missed call is money on the table. Every missed customer, you're not getting back. So change the phone system so you're connected 24/7. Q is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communication, works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. Q has a way for you to share your number, collaborate on calls and texts with the rest of your customers so no customer gets left behind. With the rest of your staff so no customer gets left behind. See why 90,000 businesses trust Q, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have an existing number with another service, Q will port them over at no extra charge. Q, no missed calls, no missed customers. This has been so fun through 3 games, and so immediately we're getting antsy and wanting to know what's more. Thank you, by the way, for making Locked On Jazz your first listen, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in this #1 sports podcast network in I don't know if it's in the world or what. Like, that's a silly thing. So let's stop there. Just call it what it is. All right. First thing that might caution some things is, do you believe that we're the #1 shooting team in the league? Yeah, I don't either. So Synergy Sports, which is a system that monitors shots and things and plays and all these various things, has something called, looks at spot ups. And spot ups were the #1 We are the number one team in the NBA right now with spot-ups, which would lead you to believe that we're the best shooting team in the NBA. That is a little bit of a small sample size. In fact, you really see right now with even Portland, like they're 2-2 and they've won 2 games where they just went lights out shooting, and they're off 2 games where they are. So if you look at that, I just don't think we can honestly expect ourselves to be the number one shooting team in the league this year. If you look at some of our specific numbers like catch and shoot 3-point shooting and some of those numbers, what you end up seeing, first off, that is great, is we're taking the 4th most catch and shoots of any team in the league at 32 a game. That's awesome. We're shooting 41%. That's a little high. Charlotte's shooting 46%. That's really too high too. Washington's at 43. Miami's at 42. Houston's at 42. San Antonio's at 41. Philly's at 41. And the Jazz are at 41. Look at that. That's all the teams that are surprising people in the NBA right now. It literally comes down to that right now. The Lakers are at 27%. Scary. The Thunder at 29%. Boston's at 29%. Orlando's at 29%. The variance is really high. That'll change. So, just keep an eye on that. Our off-ball 3-point shooting will get better. We're last in the NBA right now, or off the dribble 3-point shooting. We're last in the NBA at that. We're only shooting 16%. We don't really have very many good off-the-bounce 3-point shooters, but that I think will get better. Like that would be the one thing I would say on that. It will get better. Okay. Second one. And this is, I'm going to let you into a little secret about statistics. I love them. And I'm also aware of where they might be funky. So one of the most arbitrary statistics in the NBA is that there are literally humans that sit in the building that decide where every shot is taken. And they sit there and say whether the shot is classified as a rim shot or whether the shot is classified as a short mid-range floater. This is a little funky, and I need to see what happens when we go on the road. But as of right now, we both take the fewest shots in the game at the rim, and we allow the fewest shots in the game at the rim by an unusual amount. So my first thing is, let's see what happens if we go on the road, and it might be that our hometown scorekeepers happen to have a smaller definition of the rim than others. Golden State's scorers notoriously never count a shot at the rim. You leave your Golden State like, oh, we never got to the rim against Draymond Green. And that, who knows if that's planned so that Draymond Green can keep winning Defensive Players of the Year or what. But as of right now, we're only allowing 18% of the opponent's shots at the rim by the league rule. And the next closest team is the Clippers at 22.5, who, by the way, played a game in Utah. Okay. And then the next is Golden State, whose scorekeepers are known for not counting shots at the rim. So I'm just throwing a huge blast to all the numbers here. And then the next is Sacramento at 27%, and we're at 18%. Feels a little funky. In addition, the league average is 30%. That's kind of the number. Like the league is kind of at 30% rim shots. And we're at 18% allowed right now. So one of two things is going on. One is Will Hardy's commitment to not letting you get to the rim is absolutely in place at an incredible level and absolutely doing something no team has ever done defensively in the history of the NBA. Two, that our scorekeepers don't count anything as rim shots. Or three, it's a really small sample size and it's going to head the other direction. Tonight is a huge test. I'll get into that in a minute, but Portland's the 3rd highest amount of rim shots of any team in the NBA. Okay. I will point out also that we don't have any shots we're taking at the rim offensively. We're only taking 19.7 shots at the rim offensively, which is the lowest in the NBA, which could be because of our scorekeepers, right? I'm not criticizing. This is literally their job. They just make this decision. It just happens to be it's not uniformed one to the other. So this is not, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It just might be how our guy does it. or woman. I don't know who it is. The league average, again, is 32%, and we're only getting the rim 20%. So one of two things is true here. We're either allowing unbelievably few shots at the rim, which is great, but then it also, if that's true, then we have to say we never get to the rim. We can't live like this. You can't live. We have this 29th ranked, if the numbers are accurate, we have the 29th ranked location field goal shooting in the NBA. You cannot live like that. We take the second worst amount of shots because we take so many floaters. I think it's right. You know where I am. And defensively, we have the number one field goal percentage defense location. I just think those will both even out a little bit, but I think it's a reason. Okay. We also haven't played very good teams yet, and we're not going to. We could really be 5-2 here, no problem. We pull off an upset tonight. We're a 3.5-point dog tonight. We go to Phoenix. They're not very good. If Jalen Green's supposed to be back tonight, but it's going to take them. They're not very good. Devin Booker's really not playing well. We go to Charlotte. They're playing great, but they're shooting lights out. They get real for a night. We get them. We go to Boston. They're terrible. We beat them. Like, we are 2-1. We could very easily head to Detroit. How many more games is that? 4? So we would have played 7 games. We could very easily head to 5-2. I literally told you in the prediction show, Jazz fans, early start will get you thinking play-in. I'm cautioning that. The other one I would just say, and no, like, just to caution this, I still really believe in 240 minutes. And so far this season, we have not played teams that have 240 minutes of basketball against us. There aren't a lot, frankly. And so the way to look at this is if we're going to surge, if you really think we're going to be a play-in team, we need a lot of guys to suddenly become viable NBA rotation minutes to survive the gauntlet of 82 games. I haven't totally seen that yet. So this is awesome. This is super fun. Lauri's emerging. Keyonte's making big steps. But for it to be like really a play-in run and not be where we thought we were going to be and be so vastly ahead of where we thought, there's some funky stuff, I think, that is still taking place 3 games into a season. Doesn't make it any less fun. Just makes it a little bit more realistic there on what we're seeing. I'm not being a downer, am I? That's the question everyone's asking. All right, tonight's going to be awesome. A bunch of super cool matchup aspects to it. Let's get to it next on Locked On Jazz. Every now and then we get a sponsor that comes on and I'm like, oh, that is super cool. And then I love like when they're really well marketed. Rippling is one of those. So if you're a business owner, SaaS is there to make you work easier. But kind of one of those things that, as it's supposed to make things easier, the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams, simply don't work together. And that's not SaaS, that's SAD, software as a disservice. I loved that line. Software as a disservice. So that's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. It removes the bottlenecks and the busy work that slow teams down. Ugh, hate that stuff. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's seriously simple to use, gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch, whether you want your entire HR, IT, or finance operations as one, or just fill the gaps in your software stack. Rippling can do it. So right now, get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNBA. That's RIPPLING.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNBA for 6 months free. And today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch. It's your own personal finance advisor. It's easy to lose track of everything. You want to know what you need to save to get to something. And that is where Monarch comes in. the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where my money's going and how to make it work for me. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com to use the code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. I was texting with a friend last night, and I was saying that they asked me like one of my favorite things of the job, and I was like, "What's when I prep, find things unique to the matchup of the game, and kind of honestly think nobody else has it." So you're all going to have it here in a second. Let me share with you the things that have me fired up for tonight. So first of all, these are all pretty geeky. Portland is playing the most transition of anyone in the NBA. They're playing 25% of their possessions in transition. So one of the biggest things the Jazz had to improve was they were last in the NBA in allowing transition. Can the Jazz prove that to be real? They're better right now than they have been. Can the Jazz do a better job and truly play transition defense the way they need to? So that is the first one, because Portland does it. The second thing is Will Hardy said to us in pregame the other night that the way he judges his pace of play is that he wants the team to get into their first action quickly. Right now, the Jazz, because the way they run things, they're going to get to their second actions probably at a slower time, and therefore they need to get into their first actions quickly. Well, right now, the Jazz rank 29th in getting to their first action. Portland ranks first. So pace is going to be fascinating tonight of what happens. Does Portland get out and run? Can they, 25% of the positions, can they get into their first actions that fast? How do the Jazz deal with that? So that to me is the first part of this game that's going to be so fascinating. The second one, and we've talked about this a little bit on Locked On with kind of my geeky stuff that I check on. So teams seem to be sliding a little bit away from pick and rolls. In fact, Portland has played the 3 games this year that have the fewest pick and rolls of any games all year. Portland, 3 games. Miami's, I got to watch Miami. It's the first thing I'm going to do on the plane tomorrow. Miami's not running any pick and roll. Might do it tonight. Jazz run the 29th most amount of pick and rolls in the league, second fewest. Portland runs the third fewest. So that means that tonight's game will have the fewest pick and rolls of any game that's going to be played all year so far. And I was looking at it. Memphis had some games last year with not very many pick and rolls in their games because they weren't running it. But it might be, there's only been like 7 games with under 90 pick and rolls run in 5 years. And we're going to be one of them. We're going to be there tonight. So that's super interesting to watch how these two teams do this. The third one that's super interesting tonight is that all this rim stuff I just talked about. Well, last year, Portland took the 3rd most amount of rim shots. This year, they're taking the 4th most. So a few things. One is if there's no rim shots tonight, it'll tell us it's the scorekeepers. And 2, it'll be interesting to see how the Jazz adjust this. Okay. The next one that's super interesting is if you can keep Portland in the half court, they're not very good. Last year, their offense was 23rd. This year, it's 24th. This is not what they're good at. If you can keep them into the half court. They don't run pick. They don't really have answers. Their pick and roll ball handlers are the worst in the NBA. And they just kind of play. They don't, one of the big things I try to do in a broadcast is let you guys know what their primary offensive sets are. Avdija runs 14 picks. Holiday runs 10. Sharp runs 9. Holiday runs 8 isolations. Avdija gets 17 drives a night. It's not really clear. They're not running off-ball screens. They're not running handoffs. It's not really clear what they're doing to get into their stuff. their touches, Avida has 78 touches a game. Holiday has 72. Sharp has 55. Like, they kind of move them around. So they're still trying to figure out who they are without Anthony Simons. So this will be, I think, super interesting to watch. And then Donovan Clingan against Walker Kessler will be interesting. Walker killed him in the preseason. And Klingan's getting a lot of time and playing for them. So this is a really fun game tonight. Reminder, you can get us on SEG Plus, on Jazz Plus. Toggle the multicast over and get the radio broadcast. Hope you enjoy that and want that. We're excited to have it on there. Really appreciate the streaming staff for getting that done. We have the exclusive in-arena broadcast going on as well. So check that out. And just tune in. KSL, Sirius XM, NBA Audio League Pass. Jazz Blazers tonight. See how the fourth one can be as fun as the first three. It's all coming up tonight. This has been Locked on Jazz. We now send you over to the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel. By the way, whoa. Logan Cooley has just signed an 8-year deal with the Utah Mammoth. If you're into the hockey world, maybe check out Utah Locked on Mammoth and see what they have to say about this huge contract just signed. Otherwise, go to Locked on NBA and check out the daily game night show after every game.